What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Modern Craftsman Monday.
So I was reading more comments.
We're literally doing the intro, and you're just sitting there reading, not paying attention. Guys, this is seriously what I deal with, especially when Tyler's not here to start the sing along. Tyler's on vacation again this week, and this week we have who do we have on, John?
Mike Michalowicz.
Profit First, Clockwork, The Pumpkin Plan, and he's got a new book coming out. Which the plan, which Mike didn't know, we were just going to touch on that book real quick and then get into everything else. And we touched on that book and basically dug all the way down through, I would guess, at least halfway through what that book is about, which, anyone listening to this podcast is probably in some way, shape, or form looking to improve their marketing in their business. And that's exactly what we talk about today, but not, I would say, in not the way that you would expect.
No,
it's not a typical marketing book about, run social media ads and do more video and stuff like that.
No, but I mean, 10 seconds in, he had a nugget that was amazing, and then 4 minutes in, he had another one for me to help solve my problems. And it was so simple. And then he had one at 44 minutes and 48 minutes. I have them all labeled so we can use them as
everyone's skipping ahead right now.
Previews.
It's like, don't skip ahead. Listen to the whole thing and enjoy it.
Yeah. So Mike's books, his new one is Get Different. He's got Fix This Next, Clockwork, Profit First, Surge, Pumpkin Plan, Toilet Paper Entrepreneur. You find them all on iTunes. If you haven't listened to them, I listened to about half of them. Some of them are quick listens, 2.5 hours. That's like 2 days in the truck for me. But they're really good. They've almost all been multiple listens where you got to it's a good movie. When you first listen to it, you get some great nuggets and great advice, but you have to go through it because you didn't even, once you understood those, there was even deeper to dive. So we'll try and get Mike on again, but it was awesome. Shorty, but gram-packed with information.
Yeah.
Jam-packed.
It's not gram-packed.
Gram-packed.
Yeah. We're going to leave that in there. Guys, this podcast is brought to you by Duration Molding and Millwork. The folks at Duration want to remind you to check them out at the Idea Show, Wednesday, September 15th, King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. Apparently, I pronounced that wrong last week. Yeah, because Ben let me know, and on my cue card here, it says how to pronounce it. So thank you very much. That's okay, though. Doors are open at 8:30 a.m. Admission is free with advanced registration, free food as well. Just register at the IDEASSHOW.org website. Again, that's Wednesday, September 15th. And to learn more about the Duration Polyash products, please visit their website at durationmillwork.com and be sure to follow them on IG. Oh, you got a legit background.
Yeah, he does.
No digital background, no beach.
Right. I got my Matt Foley motivational speaker on.
Nice.
Yes.
I'm a motivational speaker.
Are you standing up?
Yeah, he is.
Oh, yeah.
That's, definitely. I've never even thought I don't know. I've always just sat down to do this. Now I'm going to stand up because Mike does it.
Because Mike does it. Yeah. I got a little issue with hyperness, so I need to stand. So
I love the energy. It's even in the books.
Yeah. I'm always like, go! I can tell you on air or off, but there's a funny experience I had at reading the Audible because of how hyper I am.
So Mike, we get right into it. We're already recording.
This is how you do a show?
Yeah, dude. Just for legal reasons, I got to ask for your permission to record this and use it for a podcast and video promotional aspects. Do we have your permission?
You duly have my permission.
Appreciate that, man. Well, yeah, we get right into it. We'll do all the intro and all the formality stuff later off air, but appreciate you being on.
Oh, it's an honor to be with you guys. Thanks for having me.
Talk about the hyper story, reading your own book.
I read all my own books, and this one studio I go to, they have authors in there constantly. True story. This is a while back. It's like 10 years ago, but Michael J. Fox was recording right before me. And I didn't see him perform. He was just leaving. I was like, holy cow. I don't know what he does, but every reader of their own books does it sitting. Like they sit there and they have this little lamp and you get your own book and you're sitting there and you're kind of, tongue and throw it and reading your book. And I'm like, I got to do this standing. And so I have done standing now for all my books and they still don't, they're always blown away. Like I showed up to record this book a few months ago and I show up and I'm like, we got to do a standing. Like, oh, we did redo the whole studio. I'm like, yeah. And so I'm only doing jumping jacks as I'm doing the reading. I'm like punching the microphone. I get all fired up. So long, boring story to say, yeah, I do it standing.
No, I mean,
I love it.
Yeah, I've never even considered sitting here, standing here to record the podcast. But I think you may have changed my life today. So great show. Thanks for being on, man.
Wrap it up.
Welcome. You're welcome, bro.
Mike, what's the new book coming out?
September 21st. This is what it looks like. Oh, there it is. It's called Get Different. And subtitles Marketing That Can't Be Ignored. One of the dangers I think I stepped into, it's not about outrageous marketing. It's not about being a clown. What it is about is doing something that your competition isn't doing in marketing and how it will garner attention every single time.
And dig in, like, what do you mean by that?
So I would say of all my work, this is the one I investigated the operation of the human mind the most and was just fascinating. My editor, when we were working through this, said, you got to cut a lot of stuff out. Like people don't need to get that scientific. But there's elements in there. Here's what's fascinating. The human mind is wired to ignore almost everything. I mean, literally right now, 99.9x% of the things that could garner our attention are not. We're speaking or listening, or maybe we're thinking one other thought, but you're not looking at all the things on your desk. And if I got a pencil here, like anything in our purview could garner our attention. And then we could stay stuck on this. Like, oh, this is a pencil, a number 2 pencil. What the hell does number 2 mean? Who invented the word 2? It could just go on and on and on. So our mind is wired. The only way to pay attention is to ignore. So what the lesson is when we market, the human mind is wired to ignore marketing at all costs. Like that's its primary function. Ignore, ignore, ignore. So how do you pierce that veil, that gatekeeper of the mind? The gatekeeper is called the reticular formation. It's a web that sits on the brainstem. And what it does is...
I knew that.
You knew that.
You didn't need to explain it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. I made it too kindergarten for us. So the reticular formation sits on the brainstem. So what happens is there's 3 things that get through. One is threats. The number one thing that gets through is threats. So, and it goes to the amygdala. The amygdala is the instant processing part of the brain that if a threat presents itself, we go into defense mode. We're outside, you see something squiggle in the grass, you're jumping back before you even know it to protect yourself. That's thanks to the amygdala. And with our marketing, theoretically, I could say, hey guys, I really appreciate having me on your show. Let's go for like 4 hours and crank this baby out. I want the world to know. And I plop down a gun while I'm saying that. I guarantee I'll get your attention. Reticular formation opens up, amygdala gets hit. Problem is, you'll punch me in the face and break my face wide open. I'm dead because you just defend yourself. And so pop, 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 I'm done. Threats get attention, but they cause retaliation or some form of preservation for the recipient of that stuff. So that's not a good form of marketing. Like don't send someone a letter full with white powder and say, do I have your attention now? Not a good idea.
Glitter, I was told. I thought you put glitter in.
Yeah, put glitter in there. That's good. That sticks to their skin forever and they curse you out for the rest of their lives. That's a good one. The second is opportunity. Opportunity goes through the reticular formation to the prefrontal cortex. That's where conscious thought happens and we evaluate. So if I plop down like $100,000 in front of you guys and say, hey, can we go for an extra couple of hours? Guarantee you'll pay attention, opportunity. Risk is all mine though. Now you may just say, well, thanks for the money. We're done now. So it's very costly and risky to put out immediate opportunity. The third thing, and then what this book focuses in on, is being different. When we do something that is unexpected, the reticular formation evaluates it to see, is this an opportunity or a threat? It has to consider and evaluate. So if you do different, you guarantee attention. It works every single time. If some clown, like in a clown suit, peeks in your window right now and looks around, guarantee you have attention. But what's going through our mind is this like a murderer, clown murderer guy? And I'll defend. Is it, crazy Uncle Bob, that's his thing? Or is this someone that's lost and just looking for the clown convention? But our mind has to evaluate different. And that's why we need to market that way.
Damn.
That's, yeah. John and I were talking off air about all the research you do for your books, and to know that this one
is the most.
Yeah, the most. I mean, I guess that's natural progression, right? Like every book, you put more and more
a little more into it. I write my books in parallel. So Get Different, I've been working on it, I want to say 7 to 8 years of active research, application, and testing. Prior to that, I have kind of periphery awareness and knowledge of the concept, but really devotion. And by produce my books every couple of years, even faster. And so one of the questions is like, well, if it takes you 7 years, can't you only write a book once every 7 years? Well, I write them in parallel. So while I was writing Get Different, I was also researching out my next 2 books. And I have one that's on the verge of the writing phase where I'll start writing it, and one that we're in midst of testing, and we'll start writing in a couple of years.
I can be involved in that testing, by the way.
Oh,
Just
if you want.
Send it over, and I'm happy to be.
Oh, I'd be honored. Yeah, the next book is about how to get employees to act like owners. You're in. So
yeah, 100%. I know you don't know me, but if you listen to at least the last 2 podcasts,
yes,
it's ridiculous that, like, we always joke and go, hey, all that extra plywood or all that extra roofing, who owns that? The answer is me.
Yeah.
And the employee makes the decision on over ordering and doesn't do the returning. It's like your kids, and it's like, how do you get someone to really, I know you don't, like, honestly, as an owner, you have to give a little bit of ownership where, hey, I always say we're trying to work towards profit sharing. That, hey, otherwise, how else do they feel a pinch? I can't take their salary away for this week. But if they had profit sharing at the end of the year and go, hey, we did really well, your products were awesome, blah, blah, you're getting 15K. But there were a lot of this sloppiness on returns and purchasing that we have to kind of balance this out. So you're not getting whacked, but you're going to feel a pinch. And that's where my heads come to kind of really.
So as I was doing this research, we have one really cool case study going on around that exact situation. It's a landscaping company. And what you notice is they're pretty freaking big. They got like 70 employees out there. So it's a big one. And notices they got 70 wheelbarrows, for example. And these guys are, the mulch truck, they throw it off, it claps, it breaks down, the handle breaks off, the gloves are torn apart. And he's like, God, people don't care because they're on a salary. He did one simple thing. He put their name on it. On the wheelbarrow, it says Jim's wheelbarrow, Mark's, Susie's wheelbarrow, whatever. Their names are their full name, and it's on their gloves and stuff. It's been a miraculous turnaround. Once people have a labeled ownership, they have ownership. So you don't have to give them equity. You don't have to give them profit sharing. Maybe an idea here is that wood pile. You give it to one of your people and say, you walk around there and say, you now own this. Congratulations. And we're putting this over. It's called, Mike's Lumber. And when there's nothing in there, we're going to talk about that and celebrate. And when there's something in there, we're going to talk, what's the problem? The fact that my name is associated with that, it changes the game, it seems. So maybe something to try out. And if you do that, give me feedback because I can put you in the book.
I'm going to order 100 stickers.
Yeah. But
John's,
make it
John's stuff, and I'm just going to start slapping it all over everything.
Slap it, Joe, Jimmy. Yeah. Oh man, I got the urinal, dude. That's bullshit. But try it. I would invite you to try it on a very small level with one person at first to see what resonates with your community, so it fits in your culture and so forth, and then expand on it. But also, they ritualized it. Like it wasn't like you walk in and you find a sticker. They would say, we're going to start taking ownership. So here you go, John. Here is your sticker, your name on it. I want you on that lumber. Why don't we do the official, sticking on there, and you put it on yourself. So there's a tactile experience around it. And then maybe you can go to an extreme, but there was that tactile experience, and literally changed overnight for this guy. This guy's name was Steve Bosquet. Steve Bosquet's company turned around overnight with just stickers.
You know what I really wish? I really wish that there is that simple thing that's going to solve my stuff.
Yeah.
Like the guy labeled his stuff and it's solved. Imagine that guy. He's probably been struggling with that for 10 years. How many wheelbarrows that they've ordered?
Oh,
pre-ordered.
unbelievable. And you know what's funny is when he found this, he was so excited and then also so pissed. He's like,
Yeah.
why did it take me so long? I could have done this 10 years ago. But the thing is, he fixed it permanently. There's a concept called Occam's razor, and it's a theorem that's been around for millennial. But what it states is that the more simple the solution, typically the more effective it is. It's human nature to throw complexity at it. It's like people aren't taking ownership. So I got to give them stock, profit share. We're going to go to an owner's retreat. We're going to do a trust fall.
Yes.
And it's like, no, dude, it's none of that stuff. It's a sticky note.
Yeah, get him a sticker, man. How did you get into just all of this? Like really studying, because everything is really, I think everything that you've written, correct me if I'm wrong, is kind of business oriented, right?
Yeah, that's all I do.
Yeah.
Small business.
So, and they're like, it's all about these systems and things that you can put into place. And like you said, these simple, oftentimes very simple things that just need to be explained one time for you to understand it. I think about Profit First, which at least for me, it's like I think that's probably one of the biggest, I'm guessing one of the more successful books.
For me, it's my marquee book for sure.
So, and it's, you hear it, and I think no matter whether they know who you are or they don't know who you are, they know what that is, and they know it's a process and what it does for a small business. And and when you read it, it's like you're reading it for like the nugget, and then you get to the end of the book, it's like there was no nugget. It was just walking me through the simple steps it takes to organize my money.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's like that. It's just a simple solution that can, literally change the way that you run a business and create, profit.
I try to give the nugget in the title with Profit First. Like I want people to say, oh, I got the whole idea down. Like take your profit first. I get it. Then the book is the story, of course, the system and its detail, but it's really what I'm trying to do is get people to take that leap just to try it.
Right.
There's this perverted commitment to our historical behavior. So even if we've done something that hasn't worked, like I've never been profitable for 15 years, but damn it, I'm going to keep being unprofitable because I believe what I do is right. And I'm going to fight through it by doing what's not working. I know that's the definition of insanity, but that's just human wiring that it is really risky to counter our identity and our beliefs. It's far easier to say, even if my belief wasn't really right, it's better just to keep believing it. So what I try to do is do in 2 words. With Get Different, the marketing, I hope that's the words, is make your marketing different. Just get it different and everything will change. The rest of the book is then working through the framework and the process to do it and really just trying to rally people to have the courage to try it once. With Profit First, if I can get a person to just take their profit one time, just a small percentage, hide it away, and that may just be enough to get them to do a second time. And when I get them a second time, they're hooked for life and these businesses are more profitable. I'm trying to do the same with marketing now.
Do you think that the reason people, beyond like, hey, what I do doesn't work, but I'm okay with it. Do you think it really comes down to the understanding of the time commitment? This is going to take forever to actually see a return, so I'm just going to stay the course.
Well, that could be. But yeah, I think there's a lot of logical reasons. I think when it comes to marketing specifically, because this is where I really investigate is why don't people market? To give you a little context, when I do speaking engagements, now a lot of it's virtual, but when I do it, I'll survey audiences occasionally saying, what's your primary source of marketing? Where do you get your leads? And consistently people are like, client referral, clients love me. And there's like this chest pounding, like 100% client referrals here. And that is something to be acknowledged, first of all, because your clients believe in you enough that they're recommending you. But you're at the whim of your customer to market for you. That if they decide to stop or that business goes out of business, you're screwed too. So we are responsible to market. So I'm like, why don't we market? Why don't we put ourselves out there? And what I found is it's a very weird bipolar behavior. Rewind to like the Neanderthal day of humankind. And if the three of us were in a tribe and you guys are like, dude, we're going after a woolly mammoth. Let's go. And I'm like, no, guys, let's go after a saber-toothed tiger. That's what we're doing. And you guys are like, screw you. I'm dead. Like now the tribe is going in this one path and I, the resistor, the one who's doing different, is out on his own, guaranteed death. Guaranteed. We were so codependent. Well, fast forward to modern times and that dependency is maybe there emotionally, but it's not there for our core survival. Like if you decide to go and hunt your own food and I decide to go to the supermarket, I'll probably live, even though I'm challenging the norm. So there may be a consequence in our relationship, but not in my survivability. But we're still wired like, oh my God, if I do different, it will kill me. I will die. So there's this weird thing knowing that we can do something different that's in our best interest. If we stand out and market ourselves in a way that new prospects identify us, that's in our best interest. But at the same time, on the other hand, if I do something that's inconsistent with my community, my industry, I'm the weirdo, people are busting my chops. There's an emotional consequence. So it's very bipolar. We want to get noticed without being noticeable. We want to stand out without having to stand out. And it just can't happen. So we have to get over that fear. And there's ways to do it, but we have to get over that fear.
I think it's in that conversation with Brad Pitt and George Clooney and those guys in Ocean's 11. Like he's like, you want to be noticeable, but not too noticeable. Memorable, but not like remind. Like it's funny this line that they say about him trying to act a certain way. It's like be funny, but not too funny. And it's very similar that way. Is I think to Nick's question from the books I've listened to with you, I feel like we try and stay in our comfort zone. So if it, you know, and that's what I found is the pitfall and all the tools that you have on your website is for you to make it easy for you to focus on what the problem is and identify it. When a lot of us will sit back and go, this is, it sucks, but I'm comfortable. You know, like I know I could do better, but it's like every person that's in a cubicle right now, they could be chasing their passion. They could be doing something else, but they are comfortable and it's the routine and it's what it is. And I think from what I get out of a lot of your stuff is, all right, think outside the box, and your energy through the book, which is awesome that you stand when you read it. And it makes sense to me.
Now you know the hack. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I've done a couple of voiceover things and I've done it sitting, and it's like, it's honestly, it's almost as if you've done it in a crappy mood versus you doing it with smiling. You can totally hear it when you play it back. But I think the energy that you bring in the books as well brings the energy on, like it's going to be a negative thing for you, like to find this bad thing in your business. Yeah. But the way that you say it I have this emotional connection to the listening to it going, dude, I'm in.
I love it. That's my goal, brother.
Yeah. You're going at 100 miles an hour. It's like, dude, I'm on that road. I'm with you. I can't slow down. So I'm with you. And I love it.
I for a short period of my life, I was doing some work in television, and I had to do a voiceover. I was a host for a pilot TV show that went nowhere, but at the end of the pilot, they wanted me to do the voiceovers where it's like, you know, you're about to watch Bailout, your life's about to change, like those type of things. And I sucked at it. Like I sucked at it. And the producer, out of frustration, opens his wallet. He pulls out a picture of his son, which was a baby, like 2 years old. He jams my hand and says, just talk to him. Just effing talk to him. And I looked at the baby and I started reading, and I was like, your life's about to change. Like, it changed my whole demeanor. The words were the same, but the tonality was shifted. And that's what I think we need to do in our marketing. That's what I try to do in my books, is this is a one-to-one experience. When someone consumes your marketing, your service, your product, they're not thinking from the context of, oh, the whole world's consuming it. Maybe that's what we're selling to, but for them, it's a very intimate one-on-one experience. And we got to speak to that one person. Maybe hold a baby photo. It worked for me.
I say this to my guys, like when I write an email, some of the feedback I've gotten on maybe one or two of my people is that, hey, I just don't know if they care enough about, like, this is someone's biggest investment and it's their life savings that they're spending. Yeah. And then I'll get CC'd an email and I'll email back my PM or whoever it is and be like, hey, can you do me a favor and just rewrite that email as if you're emailing it to your mom?
Yeah,
your
yes,
wife.
it's perfect.
You get me? Like when I'm looking at it, it's like, don't just throw information against the wall. Like if my mom, who's turning 70, read that, she'd be like, I don't get this. Am I supposed to say okay to this? Am I comfortable with this? Or am I just supposed to? It's almost like it's really easy for us to do this for 15, 20 years and unintentionally steamroll someone that's in the process.
Yeah.
You know, like, hey, this is what this is going to be. It's $15K for HVAC. Well, what do I do? Like, I try and put myself in the position of having a ton of empathy, which you've talked about in your books, is, and then have like be on that side of it. Is like, how's that going to get received? And Nick a couple of months ago found this website, which you brought up a few times now. It's like it takes a text message and you cut and paste it into it, and it evaluates the empathy, the direction.
Oh, that's cool.
And it was, I couldn't tell you how many hours I dove into that thing. It was like going back through like different text messages and emails, like, okay, what'd I do? And I wanted to more give myself the credibility that, oh no, you are not just saying it, you are delivering that message. And it's funny that
the text you sent said, "Hey douchebag, where's my money?" Yeah. On the empathy, it was the lowest rating ever. It just blew up.
But it's I think it's funny to dive into that and go, all right, how is it being perceived? Because in our day-to-day, you know, whether it's marketing or whatever, you get lost and you're just trying to get tasks done. I'm on task 24. I need to get to 30 so I can have a successful day. And the empathy is lost, and it's just you're driving stuff home to get it done, even though the repercussions tomorrow when they read that email is
so damaging. And it starts a downward spiral. Marketing there is a belief that circulates that's a total lie. And I call it out in the book is we're told when our marketing isn't working, we're simply not doing enough of it. We're pushing for a volume game. And, you know, you ran those Facebook ads and you didn't get those HVAC clients you wanted. Clearly you didn't run enough ads yet. Or that text you're sending out, it didn't yield one. Oh, we got to send out more texts more often. And that's a lie. If something isn't working, we need to start running experiments around why it's not working. That empathy test, to me, sounds actually really compelling. I also think we should do keying. This is a strategy direct marketers use. But basically, I can send out 2 messages and put different keys into them. So one message could say, you know, we have a 50% off sale going on in our HVAC cleaning. Another one says we have a buy one, get one free. Like, you know, you buy this year, next year's cleaning's free. But one will say respond to cell number 123. The other one will say respond to cell number 456. Then I measure what response is coming in, and I can start leaning and figuring out what's working effectively. That's a technique called keying. And sadly, a lot of people that do marketing, it's well, let's just try it out and see if we get in business, and there's no measurement behind it.
It's all feel. It's almost like
feelings are dangerous.
Either you're talented at it. I mean, I also think social media has given us the ability, like Nick's very good at marketing. He's solid as a rock, whether it's clean marketing, whatever it is. But I find myself going through architects that I love. I remember when I was doing my website over, it's not done, but I pulled 2 architects' websites and go, I want that feel. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know how it gets transitioned into construction and building, but I go, I want that. And it's not you. I didn't use builders' websites. And same thing as when I see stuff online. Smart. I don't know if it was smart. Again, going back to that, like, I don't know where the rules are here of engagement, but I'm like going through a whole bunch of stuff and having the ability to save these 2 websites. And I wanted to tell a story. And I felt like that's what I got out of the 2 architects firms. And what I find in builders and contractors and those, they're selling a product, not the story. And what we do, what our company does is more of that story, the story of the home, either it's new or renovations. And I was trying to do that in a way, and it's
sort of transformation.
Because again, I feel like you get steamrolled by a web guy. You hire a web guy, and it's like, I'm doing this.
What I think is smart is that you didn't copy someone in the industry. You know, There's a danger there that causes dilution. It's the concept of best practices. I think best practices are extremely dangerous when it comes to marketing. I think it's smart. You know, if you have a best practice in recruiting and hiring in your industry, I think other people should use that. But when it comes to marketing, if we're doing the same marketing to the same prospects, it comes very ignorable. It's the hey friend situation. Like the first time I got hey friend email, I was like, oh, like which friend is this? Call me a friend. You're so friendly of them. And I saw, oh, is this irrelevant marketing, and I never paid attention again. And every hey friend I got, I've ignored. So doing what your industry is doing is dangerous. I liked, what I thought was really smart, was you're extracting ideas from other industries, maybe complementary industries, but others. I call that R&D, rip off and duplicate. Take their ideas, and as long as it's homogenous, is congruent with who you naturally are, now you have ideas that maybe are successful elsewhere and you're bringing them in. I think that's a really smart strategy, especially if it's different than what everyone else is doing in your industry.
The other part of my point was that I also do completely copy what Nick does. And other people that I love in my industry, like whether it's, there's certain people that have a great video edit, and I'll like, all right, I now want to pivot my drone this way because I want that. It's like watching a movie. I've watched, what was that TV show I loved, Nick? It was the guy would make cars. It was, I forget what it was, but I'm like, I want the intro. Monkey? It was the guy who left Gas Monkey, the mechanic. Yeah. And I'm like, he did his own show, and I was like, I want that intro. I don't know how to incorporate it. I just want that feel.
That's a sign of a great marketer. You know, this is like a great artist. You look what is out there and is resonating with you, and then you become the amalgamation of all these different points. It becomes new and fresh. The key to me is this congruent with your natural self. So when people go to my authorship website, for many people, they've never seen anything like this. It's like, what the fuck did I just walk into here? Like, this site is so radically different. I've also had people say, I love this site so much, I want to copy it for my author business. I'm like, have at it, but if it ain't you, it's going to burn you.
Yeah. Right.
They're like, yeah, you know, it's a little too crazy and goofy. That's not really who I am, but it was very appealing. And it becomes like this Frankenstein monster. So take ideas, but lean into who we are and amplify that.
I think it's super smart. I mean, like what John said and what you're digging into is like taking inspiration from other industries. My marketing has always been taken from other industries.
Yeah,
I've never looked at, the home building industry as to what people are doing, because if I did, it was print ads and magazines and
same 3 or 4 things, right?
It's like, like you said, it just becomes diluted. Where it's, we wanted to approach marketing differently and obviously put a very heavy emphasis on video and telling our story and telling why we do things instead of how we do things and digging into that. The one thing, going back to what you said earlier, it's like, running more Facebook ads and things like that, where that's a lie. I want to challenge that a little bit in the sense, like, I think that, while I agree that your message has to be correct, at least for me, I've always looked at my brand as being something bigger than the company actually is, meaning that I want the brand to be known, by more people. And I've always attributed it to like a sales funnel where it's like, I've always looked at like the lead generation through referral base is like a funnel where it's like they're in the funnel and they're coming out the other end immediately because they've already been referred and there's no funnel. It's a tube where, that the funnel for me, I've always looked at it as like, I want to have a really, really wide funnel at the top. I want millions of people learning about who we are and what we do. And by the bottom of that funnel is really thin. They've learned who we are and they've naturally either decided to bow out or they're coming to the table and saying, hey, we know who you are. We understand what your price point is. We understand what you do and why you do it. We want to work with you. So it's
I think we're on a similar page, if not the same page. I have no problem with building a broad funnel, but it's got to be deliberate in that it's moving people to whatever the next level is. And many may drip out. What's big on with the Facebook ads is there is no measurement in place. Some people just say, I want customers and I don't have any, so I got to run more Facebook ads. It's like, well, hold on. They don't go into what was the intention. Oh, it was to actually get people to do the first sign up. So I have emails and now I'm converting them through my email funnel. And then it's a one-on-one call. There isn't that measurement. And that's the danger. There's another part I actually talk about extensively in the book is we need to achieve what's called data significance. So I've had the reverse. I've had people that run a Facebook ad one time for one day. It has no conversions. And they're like, oh, clearly Facebook's not for me. I'm like, okay. you didn't achieve data significance.
I've done that.
Yeah, very normal. We have to get data significance is where there's enough people targeted that there's a plausible opportunity for a full conversion. And on Facebook, maybe it's 10,000 ads need to run or 100,000. We should try to measure what our contemporaries, other industries have done for that conversion. So it's a little bit Goldilocks here. You don't want to be too hot or too cold. You don't want to go too short or too long. But the common thread is we have to be measuring what's going on so we can get true data to make decisions on.
But I think your point about being deliberate too, where it's like it's very intentional on how you're getting down to the bottom of that funnel. It's not you're not accidentally ending up there and then still confused at whether or not you're going to purchase. It's you're at the bottom and your wallet's in your hand and you're ready. You've been educated. The seller, in my case, like a home builder or remodeler, like we've already educated you on all of the information that you need to make a decision whether or not you're going to purchase.
Yeah. So in the book, I talk about this framework called DAD: differentiate, which draws attention; attract, meaning be compelling. It's got to be something that engages, serves a need, curiosity, whatever. And then direct. And that's this last component. Direct is tell the client what to do now. And in the direct, what our goal is to be very specific on what our ask is of them, but also be reasonable considering that current stage. So the person that just saw your Facebook ad to say, open your wallet now and give me money, probably too much, too fast, and it will overwhelm them. As a book author, selling a book for less than $30, maybe that is reasonable. So it depends on our business. But we also don't want to move too slowly. So to tell someone, hey, visit our website whenever you want, browse around for as long as you want, isn't moving them down. Right. So we have to balance this in directing them what to do in a reasonable way so they feel comfortable, but also matriculating them quickly enough to get to that transaction efficiently.
Yeah, it's so tough. I was just going to say, because I'm thinking when he's saying that pre-con, you can get people involved and signed up for a pre-con agreement with a client. And then depending on who they are and what they're about and how they make decisions, you could go through the conceptual design phase and it could stall out. So it's like you get somebody in here, they're at the funnel, they're doing that. And then when you try to direct them, it's this design conceptual process that's like, it's at the mercy of how they understand it and go through that design. They're comfortable with it. It might take one iteration with somebody and you go right down, you keep going down the slide, or it could be 5 to 10 and it stalls out. And then you're like, all right, how do we gain momentum forward? Yeah.
Yeah. So, a currency exchange at each level is important where there's a quid pro quo. The very beginning is get our free report, 10 ways to make sure you're getting the best deal. And in exchange for that, you got to give me your email address. And that's the fair exchange. Then when I go into this design work, I may say, the design work can sometimes be very rapid, sometimes very extensive. We require that you put down a deposit of $500, which will be applied to your final purchase. And if you decide to exit out, you will get the design work and forgo that 500 or whatever the number is. But when there's a currency, then you get people that are engaged much, much more actively. It's actually, I'm not saying you're doing freebies, but freebies are extremely dangerous when there's no currency exchange. When it's like, hey, sign up for my webinar and there's no cost for it. You'll learn tons of stuff and be there. And you'll see that the attendance rate is like nothing. Do that same webinar and say it's a $25 seat hold. The attendance is like 80, 90%, even though in the grand scope of things, $25 is really almost nothing. So it's not always a dollar currency, but there's got to be some form of equitable exchange to keep people engaged, I find.
It's the interesting thing there, and John and I have talked about it. It's, when you're paying for something, right? Number one, if I'm paying for it, I'm going to be more committed to being active with it.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I want to be there. I want to make sure I'm attentive. I want to make sure I get everything I can for the $25 I just spent.
Right.
But on the flip side, if you're charging me $25, you get into this mindset of like, everyone's paying to be here. I need to deliver 100%. I can't just kind of mosey my way through this.
Yeah.
And in that exchange, like you talk about, whether it's currency or something else, it's that exchange makes both sides work harder at, delivering and receiving that result.
Yeah, you're talking about the law of reciprocity. Robert Cialdini did a lot of work in this space. And basically what it says is that there is a wiring. This goes back to Neanderthal days of survival again, is that if you do something, I need to reciprocate it. It's an unwritten law. You can try an experiment with handshakes. It's real interesting. Even with the COVID crisis, like just go out and put your hand out to shake someone's hand, just hold it there. People feel compelled to at least like punch your hand or do some kind of gesture in response. Conversely, walk up and have your hands behind your back and just come walk into a room and watch how no one will do that. That's this hard wiring of reciprocity. Whatever is given to us, we have to reciprocate in kind, and it works for both sides.
going back to something you just said about the how long that process takes, like from like going back to like a sales funnel, interesting, when you're talking about your book, that process can happen really quickly. And I think that for our industry, I think a lot of people forget that our process is extremely long. And like John said, it's, it could be their life saving. It could be the biggest purchase they ever make. It's a big purchase. It's not a $30 book. It's not a t-shirt that fits you better. It's a home, and it's a large investment. And so that, going back, like that funnel starts a lot further back than you actually think. So by the time that they're hopping on a phone call with you or emailing or at the table with you, that they've been, most of the time they've been, slowly working through educating themselves on you. Yes, the select few are going to find you out of the whim and give you a call and just hop right on it. But the majority of people, that process is really long. So with that being said, I think it's even more important to be deliberate through that process and being able to deliver them that education, so you're not losing, their interest if they truly are
and to acknowledge their pain. Like, when I was talking, I said, we're going to do a trust fall to win over ownership. And John's like, oh yeah, that's a technique. It's simply what we did, something that was relatable. And John, I assume in your mind for a second, you said, oh, you get this, you get the situation. If I go to a prospect and say, it may be your biggest investment of your life, this is a massive consideration, what they're saying is, yes, they get me, and they're more engaged. Interesting, another perspective on this is, I ran a survey once. I put a number on a board. I was at a event, and I put $100,000. I put on the board. And so we're just going to do a blind survey here. They texted it in, and I said, who thinks that's a god awful amount of money? Who thinks it's a lot of money? Who thinks it's money? And who thinks it's nothing? Who thinks it's like it's pissant? And it was interesting, the diversion. There was a few people that thought that was like a god awful amount of money, and some people said, I make that in a day. So there's this what I was pointing out is relativity. And as you explain to the audience, you can choose who to sell to. So I can choose to sell to the majority, which felt that was significant but somehow doable. Or I could sell to an elite minority who says, I dropped that in the bucket. And I can then align my marketing messages to comply with that emotion, because it's different. When someone thinks it's a drop in the bucket, my message can't be like, this is your life savings, hard decision. I would say, you got to move fast and you got to move right. And this is a simple decision for that community. And the other ones, I have to say, this is a lifetime, a once in a lifetime event. And others that can't afford it all, the messaging is radically different again. So we have to be really attuned to how people see this decision from their perspective, which could be different based on who we're targeting.
I think you almost have to, in your funnel, I think it was the dad analogy, is that, you want to be direct. I think you have to bring it in the middle for us, because what Nick was saying was, people have this built up kind of like, they've had these designs, they've had these concepts, they've lived in this house, and they know what they want to solve for 6-7 years to build up the money to do this. So now they've got it. They've got the money, and now they're like anxious to spend it and to make it reality. So now they've been waiting 6-7 years to get to this start line, and now they want to go. And then you're going to meet them and go, hey, slow down.
Slow
the brakes. Yeah. And they're going to be like, this is Amazon. I want Prime. I want it tomorrow. You're going to take me through this process, and we're going to go. And then you find that I've seen the lights go out on these people, because they're getting involved, and they're like, well, I want it tomorrow. I know I haven't waited with you for 7 years, but I've waited in this house. I've bumped my elbow in the shower every goddamn day because it sucks. And it's just trying to be consistent. And then, like, for me, the next part of my website that's being built is that timeline. Nick, you saw it. I drew it one day, and it was just like, I want them right away, and I'm going to give it away. It's just, here's the timeline. This is what I think is going to happen in pre-con. And most clients, even clients that are going to spend $1 million, pre-con, they don't know it exists, that there's a 6 month to a year bubble of thinking stuff up.
Yeah.
And we can get caught into it where, Mike, it's like, yeah, I want it. Let's go. You got $1 million. I'm with you. Let's just take that bag of money and just go spend it. Let's just go start digging a hole. Let's start demo. And that's easy. And then that whole realization of we have to solve things doesn't happen till it's a third of the way in. And now you're screwed where you could have done it. And some of that comes with experience. Some of it comes with certain clientele, but being able to pump the brakes, even on a really exciting project that could be a once in a lifetime for the builder, how do we set that tone and going, the process is the same, no matter how exciting it is, no matter how much money you have. And if we don't follow it, so it's like you get them down the funnel and then you go, hold on.
I think Tony Hsieh said, manage expectations and then beat them. And, this is a flavor of under promise, over deliver, but I like it better because he said manage expectations, meaning, to your point, John, we got to be highly communicative and explaining the steps, but also in that we have the opportunity to give small wins along the way. So perhaps not a great example, but I have construction happening in my house right now on a big deck we're doing, and the worst communication experience, great quality work, horrible communication. And what the guy does is like today, he's like, we're coming out today. I'm like, thanks for the heads up. And I'm like, what's the plan for the rest of the week? I'll be in touch. And then there's nothing. But what if he said, we're going to be out doing the work twice this week, and we are planning to be out there Tuesday and Thursday. But then he comes Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday and says, we're able to adjust things around. Even though that what he was originally planning, he set the expectation a little bit lower and delivers a little bit higher. He doesn't do it every single time, but now he's wowed me in the experience. Like, oh my gosh, he took care of me, which behind the scenes, maybe that was his plan originally, but he didn't overpromise. Most people go into transactions saying, listen, I know you want to move quickly. We're going to move heaven and earth to move as fast as possible. Normally, this takes us like 4 weeks to get this first stage done. We're going to do everything we can to get done in 2 weeks. And it normally takes 4 weeks. And then we're pulling our hair out, trying to get it done in 2 weeks, and we don't. We get done in 3 weeks, which is still a miracle. And the customer's like, you suck. Like, I was expecting 2 weeks. You're like, we're amazing. We did it in 3 instead of 4. And you're like, no, you suck. You said 2 weeks. So the trick here is don't change anything about the service. Simply promise 6 weeks and say, listen, and they're going to have a little indigestion when they first hear it. Say, listen, this is going to take about 6 weeks, this first stage. And I know that doesn't excite you to hear that, but we got to do this. And you have to have a justification of why. Then pull your hair out and get it done in 3 weeks. Then you call up and say, listen, we moved our best engineering team. We pulled our guest squad in. We said 6 weeks. I got cool news. We got it done in 3. And the customer's like, holy cannoli, you love me. In both scenarios, it takes us the exact same amount of service time, 3 weeks. But the promise, that managed expectation, changes the entire perspective.
So in that, I've been in that exact scenario, and I'm 100% on board with the side of, set expectations and beat them. But I also know that more often than not, I go against what I believe in and want to deliver in that initial message, because, to relate it to a specific project, I went in, this project's an 8-month project. It's like, well, someone else said that they could do it in 6 months. I'm like, I understand it's an 8-month project. And we end up not getting the job because the other guy could do it in 6, end up taking him 10.
Yeah.
But it was okay. It didn't matter. And I had the conversation with someone after. I'm like, it's funny how as human beings, we would prefer to be lied to up front, to hear what we want to hear and then deal with it on the back end, than if we were truthful up front and it's not what we want to hear and end up delivering exactly on that or even beating it. It's like, I just want to hear exactly what I want to hear in the beginning. And I think, I'm curious at your thought on that, because I think that is an even more challenging obstacle to work through when you are in that initial conversation.
Yeah, I think that is a great observation. And I think sometimes we can just say things on the nose, and a prospect, we can say, listen, it's going to take 8 months or whatever. And I'll say, well, the other guy said 6 months. Say, oh, okay. Do you prefer to hear a comfortable lie or the hard truth? And from our experience, that sounds like a comfortable lie, that someone's saying what you want to hear, but they may not meet that. And just by saying that, sometimes it awakens the customer that, oh, This is simply being told to me. The other way to do is also to back it with data. Say, when making an extraordinary decision or a significant decision like this, of course, you're doing your investigation. What's the history of the company proving that to be true? And I'll give you introductions to our customers, past projects, not ones that we cherry pick, but ones you want to identify so you can see the truth. We believe in integrity throughout. And I'm not saying their company's not being integral. I just never experienced that. So that's our truth. And, to hit that, sometimes to hit the bell right in the center so it rings through is the appropriate approach. At the end of the day, I found that whenever I'm marketing, selling, if I'm speaking integrally, that this is exactly the truth, that the customer declines it, I feel a gratitude that I didn't compromise who I was.
Yeah.
There's an ickiness because I've done that. I'm like, we'll do in 5.5 weeks, or 5.5 months, we can pull it off. And then I get the deal and I'm like, what did I just do? I'm an ass. And I feel this ickiness.
Right.
I like that feeling, even the decline made that I was truthful and integral. The other thing I do too with customers, whenever they engage someone else, I say, if things don't go as planned, or you're not 100% satisfied as you go through this experience, would it be okay if I follow up with you? Because I'm just going to make sure you get the best deal regardless of who you go through. Can I follow up and just check in on you? And most customers say, yeah, check in. What I found interesting is if they go with someone else and they want to abandon that experience, it's not working out, rarely will they come back to me because they have to eat crow. There's egg on their face. But if I open the door from the beginning saying, hey, guys, check in, I just want to make sure you're okay. When I do those calls, I say, hey, if things aren't going as planned, I just want you to know we're here and we adore you. We're still available. And now customers feel a lot more comfortable coming back to me.
How is it, would you say it's a pretty high percentage that would come back to you at that point or have come back to you?
I would say 10%, which isn't high.
No, but that's
0% when I don't do that.
Right.
Yeah.
When you open the door.
And sorry, guys, I got to split in a few minutes.
Absolutely. No, we knew that you had a hard stop. So how do we get you on again? Because you real quick, you did say something in the beginning about wanting to do a 4-hour podcast. So now I want to hold you to
so
it.
we were.
I'm a marketing hoe bag. That's what I am.
So 50 minutes, I'm disappointed.
Yeah. I'd love to come back. I would love to do it.
That'd be great.
Selfishly, my interest is just to spread the word on the work I'm doing.
Of course.
I hope I'm adding value to your audience and maybe a perspective they haven't heard.
100%.
So if you guys are up for it again, maybe let's do it in the new year and just, Erin, who lined this one up, she can schedule us for another. I'd be honored.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I definitely wanted to hit stuff where it was, you gave an example in one of your other books, the recession one, where there was a realtor that, they had nothing going on, blah, blah. And you guys were talking, whatever it was.
Upstream versus downstream.
Yeah. But then she started just telling the market story and markets around her. And then she became the go-to for all that. And it's very similar to what Nick's done on the why, not the how. And I wanted to kind of touch on that at some point because that was a fun one.
Maybe do a teaser for next time we connect. Was so interesting. This was during the COVID situation that most real estate agents got so nervous about losing their prospects and clients that were in the funnel that they did what I call a downstream look. They looked at the 10 or 20% customers that were now delaying this and trying to save them, which I'm not saying is bad, but the big opportunity that was going by them is the upstream look. There's all these customers that were leaving their real estate agents that during that period, but they were re-entering the market saying, we should start looking for a house again. So I lose, 10 or 15 prospects. There's 50,000 entering the market.
Yeah.
What this agent did was she started owning the market. We're in a little town called Booton here. She connected with the mayor, the police chief, the fire chief, and said, hey, I like to put in open houses, not for houses, but for our community. And I'm going to bring in these 50,000, it wasn't that many people, but bring in these people who are considering this community, who are just checking things out so they can meet you and feel what this community is all about. And then she's presented herself as the expert real estate agent and started picking up clients left and right. It's an upstream look versus downstream. Many of us get reactive and try to save what we have as opposed to retain what we have as best we can, but really pursue new opportunity that people are ignoring.
Yeah. It's something I feel like it's along the same lines of what that book from Harvard Business Review, I keep sitting on my desk, but it talks about focusing on opportunity rather than the problem.
Yeah.
And I know it's more in depth than that, but it's been brought up on the podcast a handful of times, but that's similar mentality where it's like you're focused on something that is already not yours. It's gone.
Right.
And it's like, what about everything that could be yours?
Right.
It was
Mike,
a pleasure,
Duo,
man. Dude, rock star.
I love his energy. I'm definitely, this is what I'm going to do from now on.
I was thinking about it. I'm like, everything's too short. All my stuff, my headphones.
So I'm just going to do the podcast like this. Stand up. This feels way better. I feel like I'm on stage, walking back and forth.
Right?
I'm just going to be staring at my dick the whole time, but I didn't mean for that to be on the podcast.
He's got a lot of resources on his website too.
Yeah, and when you listen to his audiobooks, it's like this is on the website. Here's the link. Here's how you do this. Here's the spreadsheet for that.
Yep.
It's cool to talk to someone that has basically devoted I can't say his whole life, but his career to helping small businesses, and it's really interesting to me. And I think that's where a lot of my mindset has been with from marketing. The Get Different, I think, approach is very similar to what I've been trying to do this whole time. But even just the fact that I saw this video the other day, and it was I forget what it was for, but it was basically talking about her friend came to her and said, I was thinking about taking this 4-year degree program, but I don't know, 4 years is a long time. And the response in the video was like, okay, I mean, 4 years is going to come. So in 4 years from now, you can either have the degree or not have the degree. Mm-hmm. And it's like we focus on like what the immediate investment might be of like this 4-year thing that's going to take so long, but then realize that in 4 years we'll be here in no time. And it's like you can choose to either have that or not have it. And we get so focused on the immediate rather than the long term.
Well, I think it's also recognizing that, like that story, when you're saying that, I'm like, it's like invoicing or doing something on in front of my desk and getting that stuff done. It's like, it's not that I need to start it. I look at it more like, hey, dude, block out 2 hours, because once you do start it,
right,
you're then going to crush
totally
all of them.
Yes.
So don't be stupid. And this is me completely talking to myself, is like,
right,
do this where you're like, all right, I'm going to do this. And then you procrastinate for an hour when you had 2 hours set aside. And then once you get into it, 45 minutes in, you look at the clock and go, man, I wish I had more time.
Yeah.
And it's like,
you just got to get to the top of the hill. Last night, I haven't, I don't usually work that late, but last night it was like 10:30, closed my laptop. I head upstairs and I got to the top of the stairs and I literally stopped, turned around, went back downstairs because I was like, I'm in the mode.
Yeah. Like, and what you're getting done is quicker than what you thought it was going to take you to do. So you're like,
and I sit down and next thing I know, I'm like, it's 12:30 in the morning. And I'm like, I feel great. I'm like, it was something that it wasn't super important. And it was like something I just wanted to kind of do for the business. And it was like a side project. And I was like, I just banged it out in 2 hours. Yeah. And it's like, now I feel great about it.
Once you check that out, you have to recognize when you're in those little modes. I think that's why sometimes when I take Alpha Brain, I'm like, today's that day. Like, I want to know that I'm going to blast this stuff out, set up shop, and you just know it. And there's days that you don't have it. And those are the days that I should focus on something else. And it's just being cognizant.
I'm not opposed to the Alpha Brain. I don't feel as though it's not supposed to be. I feel like we're advertising. These are not sponsors, but like I want it to be this
Ritalin.
Yeah, and which I've never taken, or even what's the other one? In college,
Rogan talks about that, like half the universe is on it.
What the hell is it called? Either way, like the focus medicine. But everyone's screaming at their car right now. You're an idiot. How do I not know what that stuff's called? I'm going to look it up. But when I take a 5-hour energy drink, which like half the world tells me I'm going to die off it, and the other half is like, no, they're fine. But I feel it. And it's like I feel like blood rush to my face. Like I feel my face flush out. And it's like, yeah, that's not
I get chest pains and my hands shake and my arms
like
get numb.
It's literally not. It's I honestly feel my face flush, and that's it. And all of a sudden it's like I'm just focused. And I used to take it in for schoolwork or when I was doing a bunch of paperwork. So when I would be, when I would work late and I got to get through this proposal, I down a 5-hour energy and it's like 30 minutes later, I'm just like hyper focused. This is going to drive me nuts if I don't remember the name of, I don't even know what to look up. Concentration drug?
Yeah. Start with that. It'll come up.
Adderall.
Adderall, yep.
Yeah, Addies, as they said. But I'm medication. I'm just, I'm always like, I won't take NyQuil because I'm afraid I won't wake up. And like,
dude. At a certain point in my life, I was taking NyQuil and I didn't have a cold. Then they came out with Z's, and I took Z's.
But like, I feel like Adderall would be the same way, where it's like, I feel like if I took that and it unlocked something in my brain that I could just sit and crush work for hours, that I would be afraid of that.
There was a movie that Bradley Cooper was in.
Yeah, Limitless,
and he took that pill, and I've watched that movie over and over again and be like, imagine. And then the other part of me is like, you take it and then you know what's available to you for like focus and drive.
That's what I'm saying is like, I like when I start realizing that I'm dependent on coffee, I quit. And I'll get off it and then I'll start drinking it for the taste again. But I hate being dependent on things that, aren't 100%. Like, like you don't want to be, I don't want to be an addict.
Problem is then when you go to do something and you don't have your coffee, then now you've come up with an excuse why you can't get that done.
Right.
I totally agree with you. It's when you get to a point where it's not you trying to dial it in and you need something else to help compensate for that or to get you to motivate to do it. I think it's like the gym. It's like there's so many times where I've either gotten into cycling or done Ironmans or Spartan, and you got to buy all the gear because it gets you excited about doing it. And then now I look at that gear like on a shelf collecting dust, and I'm like, you should get back into that.
Yeah.
But at the moment, it was like I needed those things for me to also enjoy what I was. It's like you're talking about the Apple Watch for running. Yeah. What do you got? And I'm like, this is what I have. But there was times where I had like the heart rate monitor on my chest and all this stuff. And
dude, so I went last weekend, and I'm running, and I think you had said like, oh, just pace yourself at 140 beats for your heart rate. I'm like, finally, someone's told me something to look at. No one's ever told me. So I'm cruising. I'm like, oh yeah, John told me to look. Damn, I'm at 185. I'm like, am I going too fast? And this girl's running beside me. I'm like, hey, how fast is your mile right now? And she's like, been pacing with me. She's like 8:30. I'm like, what? Mine says 9:40. She goes, no, we're running at 8:30s. I'm like, I don't run 8:30.
But your heart rate told you that.
But I was like, but I'm definitely at 185. Yeah. So, but then it was like, no, the wrist isn't that good. You got to put the watch upside down. So I put it upside down, still 180. It's like, no, you need the chest band. I'm like, I'm not buying the chest band. So then I hit 11 miles and I look at my watch. I'm like, it's 11 miles exactly where I turned around. And I was like, yeah, my watch is accurate. I'm running 940s just like I thought. Yeah. But maybe my heart rate is like 160, 180, whatever. All I know is I feel fine.
My hardest thing was when I started training for a half Ironman. It's when I started reading on it and what to do. Because I used to always just train till I got to the red. So I brought my body to the red. And I'm like, I'm training to bring that line higher up. That's what I did through high school, college, all that. But then I was getting older, approaching mid-30s. And I was like, dude, that red line's not something you can move.
What do you mean red line?
Like, like your car, like RPM.
Oh,
like you had that red line where you're like, all right, but when you work out, you're moving that from, when you used to get really hot in the face and sweat at 6,000 RPMs, if you work out enough, you can have 8,000 RPMs to work with. Right. That's how I used to look at my life and all that.
And that to me is more about like this limitless, this like biohacking, like all of these things. I read the guy that
isn't it Baby Blood? Is that what's posted?
Baby Blood? I have no. Yeah,
so I watch a documentary on Q.
I'm blood doping every morning just so I can crush paperwork. No, the guy that created Alpha Brain, he has a book. I forget what it was, but that he was talking about in the morning. It's like everyone rushes to get their coffee or eat or all these things. It's like you just went the longest period of time without water.
Yeah.
It's like, why? Like the first thing you should be doing is drinking water. And in the book, he's like, I just wake up, I put Himalayan salt in my water, so the salt replenishes the salt that you lost, and squirt a little lemon in it. ever since I heard that, every morning, lemon water with salt. And I'm like, and I don't even drink coffee. And it's like coffee comes at like 11 o'clock. And it's like, I feel better because I'm not dehydrated.
Yeah.
And it's like stupid things like that. But it's, you know.
So it's obviously making sense.
Right. It's like they're just like, you know, Mike's talking about. It's like these are simple things that it's like you just need to understand the benefit of them or hear the benefit of them once you give it a shot and realize this helps. And it's like this unlocks that additional RPM that I don't currently have. And the moment and after that, after that it just becomes consistency, and that's the hardest thing, which is wild to me because like you realize all of the benefits, right? You go to the gym, you're in great shape, you have more energy, you love work, like love going to work because you get more done, because you're more focused, because you have all of like everything's beneficial.
The yo-yo part's gone, where you go up and down and stall out,
and then it's all of a sudden like you just don't go one day, and then it's like then you don't go 2 days, and then it's like you're out. And it's even though you know all of the benefits that come with it, and the only negative side of it is literally the time that it takes. But that time should be dedicated to you as a human anyway.
I think it's a struggle part of it, because it's when I was saying I was like 37, 38 when I did the half Ironman, and I was reading up on it, and they said to really train for that, because if I swam full tilt, I'll kill myself for the bike. And if I crush the bike, my quads will have nothing left for the half marathon. So they told you to run at a heart rate and bike at a heart rate. So I'd be biking, dude. And I used to do like all my races with a fixie. I do the, Best Buddies 100 mile, do it in a fixie. So I would just crank out whatever I had to crank out, the RPMs to get that done. But then you do it on a beautiful bike, road bike, and you're trying to keep your heart rate at 140 going uphill. And it just everything you've known, it slows you down, because if you can keep a steady heart rate, that was what we did for training. And it changed the whole game, where you're trying to not rev your engine. And you're trying to keep it consistent, because the road is way longer than what you've been sprinting. It's like Gary Vee's thing he just put out the other day. Love living my life as a marathon runner amongst sprinters. Okay, I get it. Tough guy. But no, I mean, he's definitely good for, I think one of the things we didn't talk about with Mike was when you guys talked about like the funnel and being direct and the dad stuff. It's in posting too much on Facebook and didn't get enough. I think something that you've done very well is consistency. And Mike's conversation kept going in a direction. I didn't want to slow it down, but it was like, man, one thing we didn't touch upon was consistency, and consistently making an effort in telling that message and being proud of it. I've seen people jump on here on social and hit the ground running, and then they can't cope, and they can't keep up, or their message is fake and they don't know how to continue it.
Well, I think that goes back to what he said too, is it needs to be true to you. It's like you can rip my stuff off, but it still needs to be your own version.
Because otherwise you're not going to be able to.
You can't keep up with exactly what you just said. You end up losing it. You just can't. You can't continue to fake it. It might be a year, 2 years, but it's at some point you're going to crack.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We got a couple of reviews this week I can read. I know. So we got thank you. This podcast has been a godsend. The construction world is stressful, crazy, rewarding, and what I do. These guys help me get through it all. Hearing the same frustrations and how they cope, new ideas and angles to think from, incredible guests who are in the field doing it, and what they share most importantly is themselves. I've never met any of them in person, but I feel like I have 3 friends who understand me, people like me, and what we do to try and make a better place for everyone. Thanks, from Tim Bailey Duvall Studio Build. It's funny, at JLC I was sitting in the crowd watching one of the presentations, and the guy turned around and he goes, yeah, I definitely heard your voice. And I was talking, and he's like, I hear the podcast. I'm like, that sounds like Nick. And I'm like, now it's funny, because before it was just like, oh, I've seen you on stories. Now it's, oh, I recognize your voice. I'm like,
which is crazy. I've had that too. I hate my voice.
Yeah. I mean, I'm fine. I've grown to love myself. So that's totally fine.
Well, you got to be comfortable with yourself. The amount that you're on camera, that's one of the biggest struggles.
Mike Conley was like, "Can you answer me a question?" He's like, "Do you feel weird walking down the sidewalk recording yourself?" I'm like, "Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm like, and sometimes I'll definitely like stop midway because I'll see like some dude like in the street doing street work look at me like, what is this kid doing? And I'll just stop and I'll be like, my bad, dude. I was like,
I used to take pride in it because I'm just like, I'm telling my story.
Yeah.
And if you're looking at me weird, it's because you want to be able to tell your story and you're not comfortable with it. And it would almost feed me a little bit more to do it.
Yeah.
But now I'm hoping in the next 6 months I'll be able to get back on my path.
Your horse.
My horse, baby. But
Grade A stuff. Great podcast sharing views from 3 different paths in the industry. As a new carpenter with goals to own my own business, there is no shortage of useful information. I could go on, but let me just put it this way. When Rogan went to Spotify, I wrote it off and said, looks like I'm done listening to him. But now that I am all caught up with the Modern Craftsman podcast available on Apple, it's time to make that Spotify account. Thank you guys very much. From Andrew. So I think what he's referring to is the fact that Apple only shares, X amount.
Yeah.
So he's got to hop over to Spotify to get the rest of them. True professionals in the industry. Kevin, the other, says, been listening to the podcast for a while, consistently impressed with the quality of the podcast and the guests that they bring on. I appreciate the fact that they aired an unsuccessful episode and shed light on the negative side of the industry. They're true professionals, and I personally learn a lot on every episode. It's a good mix of trade advice, business, and design, and all aspects of the industry. Keep it up, guys. 953 ratings. Guys, if we're doing a good job, please hop on Apple Podcasts and drop us a 5-star. And if not, Johnny, where can they give us some critical feedback?
Survey Monkey. You can find it on the
that social media app we're on.
IG. Yeah, IG. You can find it up there in the link tree. It's
funny.
I'm reading.
Get on TikTok. Are we gonna do TikTok dances?
You can. I haven't posted on the IG in a while. I do the reposts and all that, but haven't been able to sit down and actually write a post. But I'm reading. People gave us tons of responses on future guest suggestions. I love that Jeff Sweeney's on there again, and Mike Gerton. One of the ones I read and was really funny was Detmore 101. If you guys still get along, period. I remember. I was like, what?
Why wouldn't we get along with Detmore? Detmore, if you're listening to this, give us a call if there's some beef, man. We'll figure this out.
I remember he was on early with his new businesses, his constant tweaking.
And what I love about, I remember that conversation because one of the things he struggled with is whether or not to be his goofy self on his business page. And I feel like he went full tilt being himself on his page, which I love.
Yeah.
And that's one of my favorite reasons to follow him. Actually, next week we got Casey Gray from The Conscious Builder on. He wants to talk about passive homes, building healthy, future of construction. Maybe we'll talk about robots again. Because Johnny, you've been all over the robot stuff.
I've been sending you guys a bunch of stuff. My
like constant.
I've been posting it too. I keep driving by Boston Dynamics and I'm like,
if anyone works for John, you guys are all obsolete. Robots are coming in. Just like 7 of them walking around the city.
No way. I would never.
I'm just kidding. This podcast is brought to you by Duration Molding and Millwork. If you're looking for high performance siding and matching moldings, look no further than Duration. Let me do that again because I tripped over my words. If you're looking for a high-performance siding and matching moldings, look no further than Duration. Not only do their products check all the boxes in terms of durability, workability, sustainability, and overall good looks, but the products are readily available and the pricing has remained stable through the pandemic. How many products can say that? If you've worked with poly ash before, you know how it performs, and if you haven't, you owe it to yourself to give it a try. And to learn more about Duration poly ash products, please visit their website at durationmillwork.com and be sure to follow them on IG.